the like. So it's been a long arse time since I've done one of these wee rambling videos. I'd like to say that the aesthetic was as pleasing as previous instalments. You know, your Loch Dantelchigs, your Loch Moys, your Loch Nesses, etc. I'm at Fraser Park, mate. And for anybody who's not familiar with the surrounding areas of Inverness, and I'm not entirely surprised that most people are probably not, Fraser Park is just a tiny wee park, or a field even, slap bang in the middle of Inverness, that I used to get drunk in when I was a teenager. That said, just through those trees over there is the housing estate in question, where there is supposed to be 300 odd men going into a barracks soon enough in Inverness, asylum seekers. And of course there's a semblance of backlash that's beginning to fester beneath the surface. Whether or not it materialises into anything substantial for now remains to be seen. There is talks of a protest on the 15th. Come on, Paul. I should have introduced this little ball bag. I'm obviously with the dog. But come on, this way. Come on. But just want to sort of, I don't want to record a video and completely blind people with the equivalent of science, but obviously in a political context, and I don't want to bang the same dead horse over and over again as to certain agendas that are taking place. Cough cough, Agenda 2030, cough cough, Sustainable Development Goal 10.7, cough cough. Just want to kind of more so focus on a few things that, in my opinion anyway, are truthful, but are simultaneously the reason that I'm making the video. It pisses me off, some of the stuff that I see, that I read and I hear. You know, the type of shit that gives the people that are in favour of housing asylum seekers, or whatever you want to call them, it gives these people ammunition because of sort of illiterate fucking talking points such as, 300 people in Cameron Barracks, how am I meant to get a GP appointment? I mean, you hear the same pattern in other parts of the UK, you know, like the focus is always on asylum seekers or refugees, whatever you will, you know. They blame these people for why they can't get a dentist appointment. They blame these people for why they can't get their kid into a school. They blame these people for why there's an exponentially large waiting list when it comes to GP appointments or hospital appointments or whatever it may be. And that is just, it's a bit daft. Trying to refrain from profanity to a certain extent. Because it's not warranted, unless I get pissed off. Point being though, that I've said this before and I will rehash the same talking point because it is very much needed in this context. There's issues in this country. The expression charity begins at home, you know? Undoubtedly, we all know this. Charity begins at home. And importing people legally through the migration system, or indeed housing people in hotels or the barracks in this case, up in Inverness, they're adding to the problem. They're exacerbating pre-existing problems, you know? And that's what you should be saying if you're going to go down the route of trying to make a fucking argument against people being housed in the common and barracks and or hotels such as Falkirk, Dundee, Aberdeen, to name a few, Elgin. You know? They're adding to pre-existing problems. And then you get gaslit by progressives. You get gaslit by the lefty politicians. Come on, Paul. Come on. You get gaslit. You know? Because they'll say, actually, You know, it's not asylum seekers' fault. It's not their fault that services are strained. You know, that it's populist far right politicians that are making you think this way. And that's what I'm talking about. You're giving these people ammunition. You're giving these people ammunition. Because the truth of the matter is, come on, pal. The truth of the matter is, they're adding to problems that already exist. Our systems are strained. Our systems are completely strained. And this continuous importation of people under the pretext of, it's our international obligations. It's our international obligations, you know. We signed up to these things back in the day. Who gives a flying fucking fuck? You know? Who cares? If they had anything about them, and they genuinely were concerned about the issues that this is going to create going forward, then they would be ramming these international obligations up their derrieres, or but they won't do that, will they? It's the steady influx of people. You alright, pal? You think I'm getting pissed off? It's just this never-ending flow. Millions of people have entered the United Kingdom in the last fucking decade, the last 2 decades even, you know, legal and otherwise. And then you just get these people, I'm not racist, I just want them to stop coming over in boats. Okay. But even that goes back to the sustainable development shit that I said I wasn't really wanting to get into. You know, but what's the alternative? They say, if they would just stop coming over on boats, safe and legal routes. Sustainable development 10.7. I really would recommend looking into that. But regardless, legal or otherwise, it is exacerbating problems. You know, that's just on a service level in terms of conversation, and that is without having to get into one of the main fundamental problems. Not my biggest point of contention, but it's borderline alongside it, so on par with it. And that is the criminality aspect of things. And I'm not talking about coming over here illegally, even though, technically, regardless, I'm on about, come on, let's go. I'm talking about the crimes that some of these people, not all, and you always have to do that, don't you? Not all of them, doesn't matter. Even if one person enters a community, you know, when the people of a community don't want these people in the community to begin with, but so they're imported into a community, and that community in question doesn't want them there in the first place, and then even if one of them commits a crime, isn't that one too many? Here, pal, I'm going to take the lead off you. There you go. Come on this way. Good boy. Isn't that one too many? And one of the pushbacks is always, he's got plenty of our own that commit crimes. And what? And fucking what? If nobody's denying that, but that doesn't mean you should import more. You know? Elgin, for example, there was that fucking, I think it was an Afghan refugee sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl. You know? It happens, it's happening all over the joint. It's happening up and down the UK. And that's not to suggest that every single person that comes over in a boat or comes over using the legal methodology is automatically, by extension, going to commit some sort of heinous sexual crime. But the point is, though, there is the odd few of them that do, and that's one too many. You know? But the proverbial blue hair, femtard, libtard, poo-poo response, there's plenty of white people that do it too. Come here. This way. And then, of course, there's demography on a side note. This little fucker. There's demography. And this is my main point of contention. You know, but people just don't seem to fucking really speak of as much as they should, but yet you hear it time and time again in any sort of debate show, such as that wet wipe of a show, debate nights, or in the Scottish Parliament, etc. You know, whenever the conversation comes up of asylum seekers and or migration in and of itself, first and foremost you're gaslit, as I said, then you get smeared and called far right and a racist and all the rest of it, you know. Oh, you go home at night and you watch Adolf Hitler videos, eh? Aye, so you do, bro. Right? But on top of all of that, you're gaslit, you're smeared, but then they try to justify themselves. You know, above all else, they try to justify themselves. They'll turn around and they'll say stuff like, at the end of the day, Scotland's population is ageing. Scotland's birth rate is below replacement level. So we need to actually encourage migration here? Oh, do they? Aye. So you're indirectly, in your attempts to smear and poo-poo and gaslight, you're indirectly proving the so-called far-right extremists correct in your assertions about the future of our country, because you claim that we need to have people into this, or encourage people to come to this country in order to ensure that we have a fucking working age population going forward. So what you're realistically saying, you're indirectly saying, and in many instances actually directly just saying, that we need to import people here because we're not having enough children, aka replacement migration. But it's a far-right conspiracy theory if you say it. It's a far-right conspiracy if I say it. But yet they're allowed to say it. Make that make sense. Hello, Paul. Make that make fucking sense. You know? I will say, there's plenty of people, unfortunately. Come on. Come on. Let's fuck off. Come on. Come on. What's he doing? Come on. Come on. What, mate? I mean, there's obviously plenty of people, and I'm not going to speak for everybody, but there is obviously plenty of people in this country that, like, genuinely are, like, civic nationalist in terms of their mindset and whatnot. I don't agree with civic nationalism. I think it's pretty fucking gay, quite frankly. But regardless, I'm not going to speak for all of them. But I do think that people have legitimate concerns, they have legitimate grievances, any concerns whatsoever, they're legitimate. I mean, the idea in an Indonesian context of putting people into a fucking housing estate, the Carmen barracks, and then smearing everybody that's got any concerns about it has been racist. I think that's fundamentally incorrect and egregious. And on that note, I'll leave it to you. Adios.